Oh, it's 7:01. All right, here we go. Okay, this time, I remembered, probably because it just happened yesterday, but fail. Your test failed. Came back negative. Well, I guess it depends on the situation or whether or not that's a fail, huh? Okay, so welcome to the Eighth Sacrament podcast. Cue theme music. Why are you not up there? There we go. Or intro. All right, all right, all right. So a negative result is good for a door. We've learned that so far. Okay, so we're gonna start this from scratch. I'll make it a little quicker. I know it's the weekend for people. I know you guys want to get back to your video gaming, nerding it up, and other things. Bunch of perverts. So last week we talked about how important graphics are to people, um, in relation to quality of the content and quality of the playability of the game itself. Not a, hey, if we made Minecraft, would you guys play it? It's not going to happen. And we revisited tier 11 through 15 rating, which again looks like that will likely be going through. Um, right now, it's got a pretty strong voice for yeses, only one no, and as we pick up people, I mean, there's a point where we have to start implementing it. So at that point, it'll be whatever the majority says. So if anybody's going to come in and change their mind later, that's something they're going to have to figure out now. Too late is too late. Okay, so let's talk about the flyover video update. I actually spoke directly to Josh, Serious Bacon, which is one of the two developers putting together that video. He says it's looking very good. He's got a pretty good landscape model going. He's got the assets going really well. His biggest concern is his computer, and we'll deal with that later. It can run. We just have to send everything over to Wicked to actually record everything, which is fine. We work with what we have, right? Full volunteer force, limited funding. So next is Forum Life and Bots. We had a pretty massive attack of bots a week or two ago. As you can see, the Forum Life's pretty much beefed itself up. I don't know if this is because people are hating on the game. I haven't read all. I'm just kidding. People aren't hating on the game. They're asking a ton of brilliant questions. I absolutely love it. You guys ask very important questions, and I feel like if this was a like an established studio, I should be upset at some of the questions, but because we're not, and I don't have people standing over me telling me what to say, I love the questions. We told you we'd answer anything that you bring to us, any questions or concerns, and we'll give you the straight, honest truth. And so I noticed two people left because they didn't like one of the answers. It's not going to be the place for everybody, so it's going to be what it is. Continue asking questions, continue talking about stuff. Yeah. GG is actually is taking over site lead for our forums, so he'll be banning people who do awful color for their text. Oh my goodness! I mean, I even put it in a rap. I figure he see it there, but so there's only one conversation going on right now. Somebody actually is really excited about the bards, just like me. I'm really excited that there's a second, at least one other person out there is really excited about it. So that's that. All right, back on topic. Social media life. Social media life is what it's been doing. It's good. We've hit the 400 mark on Twitter. I know that's small. I know that some of you got like 1,200 people and you're not even trying. Man, just let me have this one, all right? I'm excited that 400 people thought this game was interesting enough to come over and listen to me talk about a bunch of bullshit on Twitter. I guess I don't really talk about a bunch of bullshit. I try to keep it dedicated or focused on the game itself. I know my personal ideas aren't necessarily something that everybody's going to share, but that doesn't mean our gaming ideas aren't something that other people will share. So I think that's where we click, and that's kind of where I want to keep it. So I've got enough restraint to understand that you guys don't want to hear all my political rants about, who should be the next president and who slept with who. I was about to say on the Kardashians, but I don't even watch that show. I don't even know if it's still on. So we're just going past that. Giga flops from now on. There you go, Gigi. You got a new name. I asked him what that meant. I thought it was an acronym like good game, quit failing, or some shit like that. He says it actually doesn't mean shit. It's just random letters he threw in there. So okay, so we already go over that. We did. All right, so into the meat and the potatoes. The reason why you guys are really here. You don't want to hear me talk about all the bullshit, boring shit. Until I got a flyover video, you don't want to hear about it. I get it. I know. I'm just kidding. All right, so the first thing, just like last night before this failed, raids. So this is a two-parter, right? And just like I said before, this will evolve to being just questions to a lot more things. So raids are very important for us. I've expressed this quite a few times. My founders and other team members have expressed this quite a few times. I'm pretty sure that you guys have expressed this quite a few times to your little friends, your little cliques and social groups you hang out with outside of knowing about this game or any video game in particular. So raids, I think it's very fair to say, is very important to everybody. Do raids have to be end game content only? No, that's not what a raid is. That's how a raid was used at that point, because when they first came out, it was something to give players more to do at the end of the game. But it's not just about end game. There are many things you can do with raids, and we've got quite a few plans with raids, and you'll find out a lot about our rating system when the information release comes out. Right now, one of the big questions is, do you want to see one of our raid outlines? So this isn't the entire raid itself. We want to give you a peek at what we're talking about when we say mechanic-driven system in a single boss encounter. And I'm inclined to include a pre-boss encounter, not the same two. I don't want to share the pre-boss encounter that goes right before the boss encounter. I want to share two distinct ones, different ones. But if you guys aren't interested in that kind of stuff, then let us know. Again, there was only one person so far that's voted no. And he was more interested in understanding how the rest of the game was going to flow, because there's quite a bit of content before you get to the raids. So it's a very fair outline. He wanted to make sure it wasn't going to be, a Korean grind fest or a pseudo grind fest or something where the game really had no context and we were just going to try to tell you guys, oh, well, you're just not playing the game or some crap like that. Essentially, he wanted to make sure that there was stuff to do in the game. There's absolutely stuff to do in the game. And you can see my response to his question on the original post. Gigi has added it to the post, edited it, and plugged it in there. So go over there, voice your opinion on whether or not you'd like to see a raid outline. Now, I just assume that everybody does, but I figured I'd see what you guys think about it, because there are people out there that don't. And while I would be surprised if the majority of you don't want to see something like that, I guess, I don't know where I was going with that. Lost my train of thought. I apologize. So keep in mind, this is the written text. So this is actually the dialogue that we give to the people who go in and convert all of our concepts into virtual space. This is the dialogue that we give to them. This is the written text so that they understand how the raid's supposed to perform and what some of the thought processes are for the players throughout the raid. What we are looking for thought process. Now, Just because we're players, and we can see this the way that a lot of game companies haven't been able to see this in a few years, doesn't mean that we'll have all thought processes. As I've written a lot of these raids out, I've already seen areas where people are going to go through and they're going to find better ways to do them and other ways around them. So none of this is necessarily unexploitable. That's not the claim I'm trying to make. Is I'm about to show you this raid in the next couple of months. Um, it's about seeing the starting point for the creation of. We'll have tons of people testing the crap out of this, trying to find ways to do it faster, to do it better, to do it, more intelligently, find broken parts of mechanics and what doesn't gel and what does gel, and ideas to improve. So it's not, while this is plan A, though it's really what I'd more refer to a rough draft. It's definitely more than enough to get a good feel on how these raids are going to be approached for you as a player and how you're going to walk into these fights and the kind of things you're going to be doing. So you're not just going to be standing there biting the back of a giant monster's heel for 30 minutes. It's what we wanted to get away from, because that's really simple. That's too simple. That's, I don't know, single player kind of stuff. And even single player, a lot of people are looking for a lot of mechanics nowadays. So head on over to the forums. I'll make sure that it's up in the post when I convert this over to YouTube, and pay attention to the news and announcements. I think it's news and announcements. Yeah, news and announcements, as I post all of the Sacrament podcasts there. And I still have to put 7 in. Got busy last night. I did set my alarm for it. So, okay. What would you... So this is the second part of the raids. What would you love to see in a raiding scenario? Now, this isn't us fishing for ideas for raids, although there's absolutely no problem with that. This is a game made by the gamers for the gamers, not by us as gamers for the gamers. While we will do a majority of the production, a lot of the ideas I want to come from, well, not a lot. Some of the ideas I want to come from the gamers. I hope that we've developed enough of a game here in the concept section that we find, or that players find, that there's really not much left to add, but that there are quality items out there that can be added to enhance the playability of this game. We're never going to have all the answers. That'll never happen. I don't care if we wind up doing this shit for 30 years. We will never have all the answers. We'll have a 200,000 player base to a 2 million player base. Somebody out there is going to have better ideas. Like I used to tell my Marines, just because I outrank you doesn't mean I'm the smartest motherfucker in the room. Somebody's got a higher IQ or has seen a scenario that I haven't. I was a little white boy, grew up in Phoenix, Arizona. There's shit I ain't never seen before. So there's, it's a group collective thing, and you guys are a part of this group. So I'd like to see what kind of things you guys, as you're sitting there talking with your buddies while you're waiting for people AFK or in between wipes and resetting up, the kind of shit you guys are saying where you're sitting there going, man, I wish a raid had this, or, if this boss just did this, it would make it so much better. Those kind of things are absolutely awesome. So head on over to the forums and post. I mean, it doesn't have to be paragraphs long. It doesn't have to be as long as the write-ups I do. I'll take what you give. If it's a really good idea and it's something that sparks something, I'll take what you've got and I'll create a raid around that kind of stuff. It's very simple for me to do. It's not an issue, and I'll give you credit for it. We'll name an NPC after you if it just so happens to go into the raid scenario. So, couple of my notes. They won't necessarily make it. I'm just curious what you guys want to see for raid mechanics, so make it fun. Remember, the crazier the better, okay? A lot of people think, oh, this is an MMO. It has to be done like every other MMO before it. Fuck that shit, okay? No, that's stupid. If I wanted to wear Nikes that look like Nikes, I'd buy motherfucking Nikes. If I want to play EQ and look like EQ and feel like EQ, I just go back and play EQ. That's all I would do. I wouldn't try to rebuild a whole nother game if all I really wanted was EQ, So don't sit here and feel like you have to adhere to some kind of rules that exist within the MMO architecture. Understand that the MMO architecture never existed at one point. Somebody created that architecture. And then it had a little bit of advancements here and there, but it hasn't evolved the way that it should have evolved by now. And and we have an opportunity to evolve that motherfucker. It's dangerous, absolutely, but if we look at it intelligently, if we plan for it accordingly, it's really not as dangerous as a lot of those companies make it out to be. So we're we're going for it. So bring it. Bring what you got. Do we have you got any questions specifically about so Mr. Bucky Cat, I'm saying that correct, I hope. Um, actually made a good recommendation here. I like that. Maybe make a raid subsection on the boards. I like that. And then we could put at the top of that could be a sticky that says, drop some raid ideas in here, talk about them, theory craft. I mean, we theory craft about every damn thing. Why can't we theory craft about raids? If we're going to start theory crafting about anything now, shouldn't it be a huge system within the game? Raiding is an absolutely huge system within any MMO. MMOs that don't have raids, well, I haven't seen one succeed yet. I'm not saying it's because of raids, but I'm saying there's a common denominator that's starting to shift as we're looking at all these MMOs and what they're lacking. So I think it's fair to say every MMO that has succeeded, except for sandbox MMOs, it's a whole nother beast, okay? Because we're not a pure sandbox. We have some sandbox elements. We're not a pure sandbox. EQ1, EQ2, WoW, Final Fantasy XI didn't have raids. They just recently put them in, but for some 10 years, everybody that played Final Fantasy bitched and moaned and bitched about raids. Final Fantasy kept a lot of players because the community was a pretty niche community, not gonna lie. I've been a part of it. I've seen how it flows. It played very well on console, where no other MMO could even touch console. People keep talking about DCUO. Never touched it. I can't compare the two, so I can't say either way. But and they had some really fun combat elements about them. So they had enough in other areas to keep people around until I think it was like 2012. They finally introduced the first raid, and it was, from what I hear, was a pretty badass raid. So one out of like, I don't know what, we got 5 classics that succeeded, roughly. Didn't have a raid. The rest of them did. I think it's safe to say raiding is an integral part of the game. All right, so let's move on then. Unless somebody has any questions. If you got any questions about any of this stuff, feel free to just post away. Adora will light it up and put a response on there, and she'll let me know if there's anything. I get really easily distracted with comments, so whoever takes my job will make sure that they don't get as easily distracted as I do. How about that? All right, so next, this is an item we're revisiting. This was from, I believe, week 2. Yep, this was back from week 2. This is a very important item, especially since we have healer concepts coming out this week. We just talked about support concepts, and this is very important for support roles and also healing concepts. So I think this fit going in between the two. And this is player targeting mechanics. So we're not talking about players targeting NPCs. We're specifically talking about players targeting other players, right? There's a lot of different options here. Now, we do not have a tab target system. There's no target lock type system in this game. There, obviously, in an MMO with latency issues, there will be a type of targeting assist. Otherwise, what could happen, like with the single player game I play with my son right now, we're doing Lord of the Rings, War in the North. It's a single player game. We don't play it online at all. We do local co-op, and some of my attacks still go right through targets. In an MMO, that would happen even more if there wasn't even the slightest bit of targeting assist, okay? And a lot of that's back end. It's automatic, but it's still there. So while we don't have a heavy targeting assist, we will have certain targeting counters. And let me clarify. When I say lock targeting, what I mean is you can't tab target that bastard over there, look over there, fire off all your attacks, and they just magically kind of swing over towards that individual. It's not how it's going to work. So when it comes to player targeting mechanics, we do have a few systems in mind. Smart targeting, so this is a dangerous one, right? Because you have to figure out how to code this right. Otherwise, you wind up with a lot of issues. So I think ESO was the most notable smart target. I don't know if I don't know if Guild Wars 2 did smart targeting or just kind of an area to target healing kind of system. Um, so smart targeting implies that the best option will be chosen. But that doesn't always mean that the person the healer wants or the support class wants to affect is going to be chosen, right? So let's say you're in a raid fight and your tank has 50k health and your DPS has 25k health. You've got a 20k attack coming up. You notice your tank's missing 40% of their health, but they're still above that mark, and one of your DPS is missing only let's call it 6k, which puts them right below that mark. So your tank's got the most amount of health percentage-wise missing, but they have more overall health. The smart targeting system usually targets the person that's missing the highest percentage of health, as opposed to the other way. The math might be wrong on that, but you'll understand what I'm saying in a second. So, and this is without considering any mitigation. So that's probably where the major issues come. But so where the healer wants a smart heal to go off on the DPS so that everybody can survive the hit, as opposed to people having to be topped off, that smart heal would always go to the one that the healer didn't want. You saw this all the time in ESO, and a lot of players get frustrated by this. I believe ESO kind of counterbalanced this by reducing the cost for one of the heals, specifically one of the Templar heals, because smart targeting is a bitch. How do you determine what's a smart target, right? So that's the question that comes to. So when it comes to smart targeting, Wicked's got some really unique ideas. We've thrown some ideas to Wicked specifically about what can make smart targeting a little more functional. Things such as players being able to tap through a set of presets where a DPS becomes a priority, or a specific role will become a priority, or instead of total health missing, it goes to percentage health missing. I mean, there's a few different ways that you can enhance smart targeting to make it a little bit more functional. So it's if we go with a smart targeting system, it will have all these additional aspects to it to make it a little bit more intuitive with player guidance. Twitch targeting is the obvious. Twitch targeting is essentially, if you've never played Terra, if you played Terra, you already know what Twitch targeting is. That's what Twitch targeting is. If you've never played Terra, it's essentially you've got a reticle in the middle of your screen. Skyrim, actually, is a great example of Twitch targeting. You got a reticle in the middle of your screen, and wherever that reticle is pointing is where your heal is gonna go. Now, as a support class and a healer class, your primary target focuses are always going to be players. So if you've got a player and a monster or an NPC standing on top of each other, let's say hostile NPC standing on top of each other, that reticle is going to select the player over the hostile NPC. If you're a CC or a DPS or a tank, it's going to do the exact opposite. And that's just how we've set up the classes. That's how they're going to function because of the way that their role works. So, which actually brings us back to a conversation you and I had, Adora, about support being able to debuff. We'll have that conversation again later because I had totally forgot about that aspect. So Twitch targeting is an obvious solution. The question comes to, are players going to be upset if we allow the healers to heal through an NPC, a hostile NPC to the tank? In Terra, one of the issues was you had to go around these giant bosses in order to see the tank and then heal them. And we're essentially creating it in a way that it's just, you're going to be able to see the player. You might not see the player directly, but you'll see their silhouette, their outline displayed. Maybe it'll, I don't know, glow green or something. Something that works with all players. Green probably won't work. Color blindness, all that jazz. Maybe there's a colorblind setting. I don't know. I don't typically work with the finer details of that kind of stuff because I don't typically deal with those finer details. But those things will be considered and taken care of. And then we've got I don't know how we want to call what we still haven't really named this system. It's an alternate targeting system, not to be confused with alt targeting system. An alternate targeting system where, let's say Okay, so our raids, right? We'll go with the 12-player raid. Our groups are 6 players. So in every MMO that you see out there, in order to target a specific player in your group, you would press F1 through the max number of players in your group. For us, it would be F6. F1 being yourself, F2 through 6 being other players in a group. For pets, I believe it was some games you press it twice, so you hold shift and press it or something like that. I don't really, I've never really played a healer, so I don't know. I did a Chloromancer once in Rift, and you didn't have to worry about that kind of shit. So mouse over UI and actual splash healing was what I dealt with. Um, with with this alternate targeting, so you'll have, let's say, a 12-player group. You would essentially have the primary and then additional buttons. So your ability, let's say your ability, you've got to assign to X. If you press F1 and X, that would go to you. If you press F2 and X, let's say this is one of those rare honed abilities, right? Priority targeting. Being able to find players as healer and support is going to be a little more difficult. So there's going to be a little bit more leeway as far as all that goes. So if you've got abilities that have a homing type of essence to them, I can't think of any. I know that the Templar had their, I don't know what it was called. They used to always hold it up and 2 beams of light would come out of it. I don't know exactly what it's called, but something like that would essentially function in a way where if you hold, let's say F1, it would go to you or whoever's in the first frame of the raid window. If you hold shift and F1, it would move over to the second group that is no longer your group, and it would start the process through there. So shift F1 through shift F6 would do the second group, and so on and so forth. And you could assign control alts, what that handles 24 players, and then a combination of control shift and alt shift would go all the way up to 36 players. As the raids get bigger and bigger, we need to find other ways to increase that. But the only real problem with that type of system is that we have an alternate. So nobody set up a single target or AoE specifically. Everybody has the capability of doing both and a high capability of doing both. So if 2 assassins stand side by side as DPS, they will have the same capability of doing AoE DPS or single target DPS as they choose. And it's going to be a single button press on that ability that's going to change its function. So let's say it's there are going to be some abilities that do not apply, but most abilities will absolutely apply. But let's call it assassinate, right? If they use their assassinate, which is a single target backstab essentially, but they hold shift when they do it, then it becomes a more of a frontal cone single target backstab. So if they've got 3 targets lined up all pretty and they're standing behind all 3 of them and they use it, the theory is ideally they should be able to stab all 3. So it'll work a little differently. It'll cost more resource and it'll do less damage per target. Overall, it's an AoE. It'll do more damage overall. And this is really to avoid certain classes not being welcome to certain raids because they do AoE damage when every raid will need single target damage. And this is just, I mean, we could create 1 or 2 raids where AoE damage is ideal overall, but there's always going to be that 1 or 2, NPCs left at the end of clearing a certain area, or at the end of the boss fight where there's no actual boss, it's just surviving waves. There's always going to be that 1 guy that survives or 2 guys that survive above everybody else. So there's always going to be a need for single target. So with this system right here, and the way we're utilizing the switch from single target to AoE or AoE to single target, there is a little bit of confliction. So it's something that we would need to test quite a bit of to make sure that it's comfortable for the players, that it's, I don't really care about unique, but something that works for the players. If it doesn't work, there's no point putting it in. There's no point in going the extra mile to give it to players and then say, well, we'll fix it later. There's no point in all that shit. So, and then I wrote lock targeting. This isn't lock targeting. I can't remember what we called this. Adora's already on the raid forums. in certain games, priority target. So there's always a priority target, and essentially the way the priority target would work is if you have one of those abilities that hones in, it would allow that to hone a lot quicker. If you're looking around for that particular player should stand out a little more. Most importantly, though, is you're tracking that player's health. So for a main tank healer, or a group of main tank healers, that main tank is going to be their priority target in a fight where they have to heal a lot of AoE or a lot of additional heals elsewhere. Or if they have to move away from the tank, they need to be able to see that tank's health at all times. Now, a raid frame may or may not work. I don't know. I'm not a healer. I couldn't tell you. In the event where they stay on the tank the majority of the fight, and they've got an off tank, or maybe one of the high DPS eats a lot of damage, or can afford to eat a lot of damage because the heals are on point, they would set the main assist, for example, as a priority target. DPS usually set main assists as priority targets, and that's so that they have a quick way to assist off of that individual. They know when he's engaged because he started to take damage, and there's just a lot of information that's readily available utilizing priority target system. So we're looking at four different systems, but it's going to come down to what you guys want, what the support and what the healers want. I took a long time trying to explain that because there's a lot to explain. Honestly, and this is my point of view on it, I don't think we've got the systems we want to use yet. I don't think we want to use three systems. We want to provide healers with the option of three systems to go back and forth between. I just don't think we've figured that part out yet. We've narrowed that down. We could take one system and make it work all day. That's easy. The Twitch targeting is an automatic that's coming with the game. And we can absolutely make that work, and let players rely on add-on support to enhance the targeting system, which typically happens. But if we can create that in the process of making the game, then it becomes something that everybody just has access to. They don't have to go download a whole bunch of stuff in order to do it. We don't want our add-ons to make the game for us. We want our add-ons to enhance the game that's already there. That even without any add-ons, the game is still an absolutely amazing game that isn't lacking anything. So I feel, I don't know exactly how Wicked and Adora feel. We haven't discussed this particular topic too much. We've been focused a lot on raids and keeping up with the forums right now. Mostly, security and rules and whatnot. When it comes to healing and support, player-to-player interaction, I think in the targeting aspect in combat, I think there's something out there that we just haven't considered, haven't thought of, haven't seen that will make this click. It will make this highly enjoyable for healers. And that's what we're looking for, is we want everybody coming in here to be challenged to the top of their wits and still enjoy the shit out of it. So head on over to the forums. I meant to switch to this. See, I need like a third set of hands, but head on over to the forums and provide your input. I think we had like 2 people watching the stream when I posted this one in week 2. So if we had, I think I was one of them and Adora was the other. So so head on over to the forums, and if you got any ideas, I don't care how crazy you think your ideas are, okay? Believe me when I say, if your ideas will not work, we will simply just overlook them, maybe let you know. It depends on what kind of person you are. If you're a little sensitive to criticism or being rejected, I'm not going to come on the forums and say, it doesn't really work. Because no matter how sweet and sensitive I try to sound, I'm not a very sweet and sensitive guy. Ignore what my wife says. She's a bitch. I'm kidding. Love you, babe. Don't watch this. I don't want to offend somebody just because they posted an idea, even if it doesn't work, okay? You can ask Adora. We've had so many ideas fly around in the creation of this project in the first 3 weeks alone that have just absolutely been rejected. So you will never have as many ideas rejected as we have. So don't worry about rejection. We're used to it. Not everything is gold. Not everything fits. It may be gold, but it won't fit with what we're trying to do. So it's about finding that absolute finesse, right? If you're Italian, I'm talking about in cooking food. So what question do we have? Will we have the ability to target through the main assist? Is there a way to do that without lock targeting? I mean, we have macros. Now, our macros are limited. You cannot assign abilities to those macros. Um, for those of you saying, oh shit, how am I supposed to, do I have to hit an ability and then another macro to let people know that I'm performing a certain ability? No, because abilities, when you put them on your bar, will have chat line commands where you can spam raid chat if you want to every time you hit that ability. It's up to you. But the macros specifically will have no capability of being able to activate anything. The only thing you can activate in those is a social ability, right? So dance, slash group, slash say. Um, you can slash loot in a macro. That's a social type of ability. Um, Things like that will be macro free. Slash assist is a social type of ability. It performs in combat, but it is a social type of ability that you can utilize. It doesn't activate any abilities themselves. So all it really does is let you know what your target's target is, what your main assist target is, and we're still working on how to highlight the difference there. A lot of this communication is going to happen in TeamSpeak while you're going through killing shit. Um, I'm not sure. I think we almost have to do what they call that shit where you put the little icons over the enemy's head, tagging the targets. I can't think of it right now. Somebody will correct me, but so uh, all that'll really happen is you'll be notified in some visual way that the MA is active and that's his target. So go kill it. Perhaps giving the MA the ability to assign his own priority target. So having your reticle on the MA while casting a DPS type spell, it would go. Nope. See, nope. Target marking. Thank you. Thank you. Target marking. Um, is it possible, Adora? Yes, that's possible. Are we gonna do that? No, because that essentially defeats the purpose of Twitch targeting. So, um, really, MA is important for when you've got multiple mobs in a very close proximity to each other, and you're looking for a specific enemy to hit. Um, while while a lot of players want the realism of not being able to shoot through a target, there has to be a certain amount of realization that it's an MMO in the respect that there's a ton of latency. Trying to ping for those types of dynamics constantly is something that creates additional server lag, and it's one of them things where we're considering before before we just assume that it's absolutely going to happen. So yeah, here's not the time to talk about ideas, mother trucker. Well, I mean, I guess it's not a bad thing, but there's only two of us here. Where's Wicked and Crave? Um, all right, so if nobody's got any questions about this stuff, I know this week wasn't as good as last week or the week before. I'm excited to see what you guys have to say about raids. Like I said, I'm pretty sure I know you guys want to see some of our raid outlines, or at least one of them. Um, huh. Oh, okay, that was me. But I'm really interested to see what kind of stuff some of you guys come up with for raids themselves. So, and just for the record, I'm not being sexist to Adora. I believe women could have great ideas without men around. I just don't think she can. I'm just kidding. Just playing. I love you, Dora. She gonna kick my ass. Boy, I'm about to get my ass whooped. Okay, so aside from getting my butt whooped, Adora asked me to show you guys a little bit of, well, an absolute sneak peek on some concept art that we've got coming out. This is, I quit. No, she doesn't. She loves this shit. She would fire me before she quit. So, um, Lelthar, and what is Lelthar the god of, Adora? What are we looking at here for the deity? I don't have my notes up right now, so I don't. Nope. I knew. See, I closed it, and I knew I was gonna need it. Absolutely knew I was gonna need it. Should come up with it by the time I pull up my information release. Did she really leave? She didn't leave. She wouldn't leave. She don't even have the information. Man, this is... Adora failed me, y'all. Adora failed me. Absolutely failed me. Where is that information at? All right, anyways. So while she gets that, this is Lelthar, the god of shadows. And this is... So this is directly from Slayer Serena's page. She is our lead, our director of concept art, texturing. I did read Mother Trucker as soon as it came up. So this is the idea for one of our deities, which is Lelthar, the god of shadows. And we give Serena a little bit of guidance on what we want to see here, but I mean, her husband essentially creates the lore alongside her creating all this stuff. So a lot of times we are just as surprised, as pleased as everybody else is. At the amazing work she can do. I mean, I kid you not, you know, we gave her a little bit of information on what we were looking for here. She chooses the race. She chooses all the additional aspects of it. I don't even think we give her the combat pose or anything like that. She just decides what they're doing and essentially what the story is in that picture once she writes it, and it's absolutely amazing. Both of our guys are our concept artwork guys are absolutely stunning, and we are blessed to have the team we have. The 30 people we have on this team is I can't even tell you guys. Working on this project is a fucking dream come true. So I know we put it together. I should absolutely be just dealing with the fact that I'm working here, but we did not expect the support that we've had from the moment we launched publicly that we were creating this game. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you guys enjoy the information release coming on Monday. We believe this one is lore information on Lelthar, one of the races. I believe we have races every other one to go along with the deities. And then the healer class concepts. So healers focus on this one. And I'd like to apologize. I did not realize when we released the support concepts that the full support concepts were not actually in that original document. It has since been updated to the full grasp of how support functions. The two elements that we're missing is supports focus on reses, and they take away any type of debuff that decreases your efficiency. So anything that reduces how much DPS you do, or puts a cap on incoming items. Where healers, they remove debuffs like dots, not debuffs, dots. Healers remove things that cause damage. In the event that there's a debuff that does both, we still haven't decided if it's going to be a dual aspect and both sides will have to be removed from a support and a healer, or if they'll just both either be able to remove it by themselves. So something that we're talking about. Probably wind up going that way. Remove the whole debuff, even the damage element, doesn't really matter. But we're trying to give support a lot more to do than just sitting there recasting buff. Give them a lot more to interact with. So one of our raid fights actually requires support to be very, very, very on point with their removal of debuffing capabilities. So it's going to be fun. We're going to challenge them and push them to the damn limits. And hopefully by the end of this, we'll have created a support class that everybody understands how support works. So anyways, thank you all for being here. Make sure to head over to our website, sacramentgame.com, and over to the forums and register for the forums. Get in there, get interactive, get talking, ask questions. I don't care if you want to bitch about something, bitch about it, okay? Neo bitched about something, and every bitch is a question, right? Is a concern, and it should be. And we've talked about a few things, and I don't know if he feels better, but I know he's got the answers he was looking for, or the answers to questions he was looking to get answered. So he's still around, and he seems pretty happy. So I think we removed some of the fears. So head on over to the website and get active. If you've got a talent specifically, so we've closed off general volunteers because we've got a lot and we're still working on getting everything in line, since now they've become very active on the forums, trying to make sure that we aren't shooting ourselves in the foot on one side while we're excelling in another. It's got to be an even spectrum as far as raising everything up equally. So we've closed off some aspects where we've got quite a few, but areas like concept art, if you're good at art, you want to dedicate some time towards this project. If it's like one piece of art every 3 months, I'm happy to bring you on board to help us out with some things. So we just picked up some interest in the field of marketing and goods, helping us create and distribute specific items. So we were talking about that a couple weeks ago with swag. I think it's what it's called. It's what I always see people call it is swag. So that's just what I go with. But the merc, essentially, we got somebody interested in helping us out with merchandising and marketing for that kind of stuff. We picked up somebody who's done a few Kickstarters, who's going to help us make sure that we've got that in line, which is always awesome. We've got a Kickstarter planned out, and we absolutely have full confidence in it, but that doesn't mean we're not above getting assistance and outside input. So if you've got any special talents, head on over to the volunteer forum, fill that out. That's right there at the donate button. I know it says donate, but donate does not just mean money. I know. In a capitalist world, what are you talking about? Money is everything. It really isn't. I promise you. Like us on Facebook at Sacrament New Gods, and follow us on Twitter at Sacrament Game. And if you're here, take a second and subscribe to this Twitch feed. If you're watching this on YouTube, do the same thing but on YouTube. And tune in next week. I don't know what we're talking about next week. I do not have it up. I had to reset my entire system. I think all the issues last night was on my end, so I reset my entire system and the folder's not open. I'm not going to waste your time looking for it. So anyways, I'll give you the outro, and then I'll see you guys next week or on the forums. Head on over.